Good day, my One Love family. It's your boy, the People Whisperer, Seth Garu Baxter, here from Maker's Bar, where we are creating 1 million leaders today to lead tomorrow. We are absolutely pleased today to have Dr. Mark Benaroia here with us today. Mark, as we will call you during the rest of this interview, how are you today, my good man?
I'm great, Seth. Thank you.
We are absolutely pleased to have you here today, and for a good while, it has been an exciting pleasure for me to look forward to this interview. So, again, with warm regards, we welcome you to the Maker's Bar studio.
Thanks, sir.
Absolutely. So, Mark, you as the founder and the executive board chair of First X. Before we get somewhat into your company and so forth, tell me a little bit about yourself, where you hail from, and what grew you along this path.
Great question. It's so I'm a Canadian born. I live in Toronto. I guess the east, what they call the east center, whatever that is. So in Toronto, North Toronto, and grew up a pretty normalish life, I would say.
Normalish?
Normalish. But I was. What's a good way to kind of start off is like I was always rebellious. Never seemed to take the normal, the straight path, the direct path. Always a troublemaker, but always kind of wandering and thinking about different things and thinking about life. And I always like to start sort of in the beginning. You're 15, you're 16, you're in high school. You think you know everything. You think you know where you want to be, and you know what to. You kind of know where you like to end off. But really at that point, I kind of knew nothing, even though I thought I knew everything. But my path started early on, like when I was doing my flying license, my pilot's license. We have a background in the family of pilots. And I thought, that's it. I'm going to be a pilot. I'm going to be a fighter pilot. I'm going to be whatever, commercial airline pilot. Needless to say, I didn't end up doing that, even though I got my license. But it was like one of the best starting points of my life, because that's where I met a very important mentor of mine. Kind of led me to this path of healthcare IT and IT and medicine. So one of my first jobs was actually in a hospital, in an information systems department, but also getting in touch with like the clinical side of medicine and just seeing patients and how patients were and what it was like to be like a doctor, right? Like this was like a big thing. Everyone wanted to be a doctor, a lawyer, and all these professions, right? And that was actually what started the whole path towards AI in medicine and university and the university career early in the 90s. If you can even think back then, we barely had like the internet. Right. But here I am thinking this is the coolest thing. I'm at University of Toronto and I'm surveying all these like machine learning courses and AI courses. It's like 1994. Like we barely had anything. But it was the coolest thing. And it was the path. I would say that this is the beginning of First HX. That was the beginning. And that was when I met my co-founder. And he and I still works in the business today. We're still great friends. And it was that was the start. But, I can elaborate more later, but it was a really cool beginning of the company. And yeah, neat.
So growing up, would you say you had a kind of a passion for piloting and healthcare or medicine in particular?
Great question again. I remember telling my grandmother when I was 8 that I wanted to be a doctor, right? This was the push. My dad's like, you got to be a doctor. You can buy your own plane later, but just be a doctor. You won't be able to make enough money and you won't be able to, fine. But I ended up wanting to do both. And actually, I thought I would be able to be a flying doctor. That was the idea. Is that you have your own plane. You can go to the north. You can treat patients in different locations. You can do any of those. You can basically do that kind of medicine. So you're right. I actually thought that would be a really cool way to kind of do both. But it never panned out that way because your life kind of changes direction. But you're right. That is was a really cool idea for a little while, but it didn't pan out. But
Well, if I'm not mistaken, they're flight doctors, don't they, on airplanes, or a medical doctor?
so you say with the flight doctor, there are flight doctors. You're correct. Yep.
So, but your path was you fell in love with medicine. Would I say that correctly?
I did, and it was like it was medicine. It was medicine. The idea of like, how do you actually influence people's lives at the granular level, like at the emotional level, using science and technology, right? Like that. It was all about patient care and making people's lives better. It was very idealistic. You know, you're young and you're thinking you can change the world and you can make the world a great place. So you do it through medicine and your passions of helping people. And this is how it starts. You know, you're 16 years old. You're thinking, I want to make the world better. I want to make people's lives better. And that is certainly how it started. And then I thought, boy, the complexity is really cool, right? Like the complexity of the body, and it's really just a confluence of I have a very much analytical, like a math, physics, musical mind, and so the idea of how the body's put together, and it's all like math and physics and science and chemistry, and you mix in some of the social parts, the emotional parts, and they all meld together, and you create this really cool this really cool system,
And
the
a
human brain.
synergy, a syn.
Yeah,
Yes,
it really is that. And then how do you bring? And then the other part of it is how do you bring the technology part? That's again how the business came in, but it's just how do you improve healthcare delivery, improve the healthcare for patients, the system. This is how it all sort of started early on. Yeah.
and was there a particular area of medicine you were interested in at first, early on, going into cardiology or disease control? Was there a particular area of medicine you were interested in?
So early on, I actually wanted to be a neurosurgeon, you know,
Oh,
and
wow.
I thought this is the coolest thing, work with the brain, you know. But then I thought, well, I'm going to need my hands, and I was a very active child, and I injured myself a lot when I was younger, and I thought I probably shouldn't be.
We had a freeze. Hey, Mark.
Are you
Mark,
there?
can you hear me?
Yep, I hear you.
Yes. Okay, your camera froze just for a second. We're good.
Okay, sorry, there I am. So I was
That's
saying
okay.
I wanted to be a neurosurgeon, and I thought the complexity of working with the brain, but I injured myself a number of times when I was younger. I was a very uh, active child, and so I thought I probably shouldn't be a surgeon because I won't have a long career. My hands are probably going to be arthritic, so forget that. And decided let me do a thinking specialty. Early on, I wanted to do internal medicine, nephrology because of the complexity, and that was my thought. Also, working with some of the sickest and most complex patients is what I wanted to do because they have huge needs, very and poor quality of life scores, poor satisfaction. So part of it was how do I improve their lives and improve their well being, and I wanted to do that. That was just always part of me, just give back, you know, and loving that part of medicine.
And then prior to First X, what were you doing?
Prior to first HX, so what I
HX.
did, yeah.
Forgive me, HX.
So prior to first HX, I was boy. I should probably tell you the story of like medical school, like because that's like the beginning story is wild. So here I am with my co-founder. It's like the late '90s, 1997, '98.
Those
He
were
was
good
very,
years. Those are good years for
oh
music, man,
oh
too.
man, it was such a great time. You know, you can imagine like what great years. But we didn't have a lot then, right? Like we had like pagers and Palm Pilots and like
Oh, yes.
brick cell phones, like nothing there, right?
Oh, yes.
So, yeah,
Right.
we're in med school, and he approaches me, and we were chatting about like how do you, boy, there has to be a better way to to talk to patients, you know, and to take medical histories, right? And that was the first idea of First HX. That was when it was first the concept first started, but we were way early, right? we thought we could change the world when the world can't be changed because of the tech wasn't there. But we came up. We had a first company that failed. You have to have a lot of failures before you have success. And so
Oh yeah.
we had a first company, and we actually did it. We created a system, coded a system that took medical histories directly from patients without the assistance of the physician. And this was 1997, 98. I have it. I have the prototype like right there, like in the corner. I was going to show you, but it's okay. And it was there, and it worked. It actually worked. We tried it. It was able to, originally it was structured as a diagnosis structure, we pivoted to history taking, but it actually worked, and we ended up getting trialing it. I went to residency in internal medicine in London at the time in 2001, and we trialed it in the emergency departments, and it worked. I got a medical paper out of it, and it was really cool, but we failed. And so what I was doing before First HX, well, there was a previous First HX, you know, and then after that, I had another company which also failed because it was too soon. By then, I was in nephrology. So I'm a kidney specialist. I was in nephrology, doing my fellowship. I was in the Queen's University, but never lost the dream of First HX or the concept of it. Had another company, resurrected that company. Again, we were too early, and we failed again. And then did some more formal training in informatics and health policy. Again, understanding the social determinants of health and social issues, and trying to bring in tech and how to fix the social determinants of health with technology. And that was in like 2006. And then what happened was I started a family, and had my first child in 2007, and then another one in 2009, but never lost the vision, and still tinkered away at the first concept of history taking. But what I was building was a practice and understanding the medical system, the structure of the medical system, how care was delivered, how money flows, and like how patients flow. All of those things were crucial in making a successful company. And I just did not have that before, even though I thought I had it. I had a great idea, but I didn't have a product that I can use and sell to the world because there was so many things missing. Like the entire structure to support everything was missing. So I essentially was doing the family thing. I was trying to do the family thing and building my practice and trying to be a good doctor and father. And then we can talk about it afterwards. But then that's when the current First HX 2017 was resurrected, when we were able to bring everything back. So, yeah.
Now tell us, First HX and the way we are used to having medical histories be taken. Would you give us kind of a comparison what First HX does compared to the previous versions of taking medical history, so we can get a little insight to that?
Okay, you mean like my previous versions, or you mean the current standard?
The current standard.
Yeah, the current standard is one that we're all used to, right? We're all used to. We go to the doctor. The doctor talks to you. They ask you a series of questions. That back and forth question and answer. Essentially, they extract data from you, right? They try to extract that information from you in a very efficient way. They often cut you off. You often don't have time. But that process of that back and forth is the way physicians are trained. Like we train for years and years and years. We learn with we have textbook knowledge, and then we have our tacit, our experiential knowledge that we then integrate, and we create the questions, and then we ask you the questions, and we get the answers. And based on those answers, we then come up with a series of diagnoses and potential treatments. And that's how medicine is, right? That's sort of the standard of care, and you see it everywhere. We talked to my late grandmother, and you ask her what was it like in the 1920s. Well, she'd recognize the 1920s, and she'd recognize the 2000s and the 2010s because it's exactly the same. It's that physician asks you questions. They know, they have information. They know what to do and they've got knowledge. They know what to do with the data that you give them, and then they're able to come out with a diagnosis and therapeutic plan for you. So that's the standard way. Our way is we've got a system of aging population. We have very little time. We have electronic medical records and a lot of data. We have a lot of data that needs to go into a system that has to get in there somehow, whether it be typed or dictated or otherwise. So physicians and for that matter, any clinician, like nurse practitioners, physiotherapists, social workers, pharmacists, everyone, we're just strapped for time. And so our way is, wouldn't it be neat to have wouldn't it be neat to clone Mark, clone me, clone someone that has, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of hours of patient hours and tons of like experience, clone me and put me in the waiting room or in the emergency department waiting room or in a virtual care platform, or put me in the front, the pre-engaged part of the visit. Before I see you, put me there. And I like think about like you're sitting on your cell phone, you have a text link to our platform, and then it takes a structured, smart medical history, as I would do before I do it. And so it would use all my knowledge and time and all my probabilistic reasoning to come up with those questions, and it would be able to then ask you the correct questions for your medical problems. Then it would summarize in whatever language you want, and then it would summarize those problems, and it's structured in such a way for me so that I can look at it, I can add to it a little bit, but I now have context. I now know what I'm going in with. I now have a patient who's pre-engaged, who knows what might be asked. And now I've got like already a framework to work from. It makes for that physician-patient interaction very, 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 very efficient, right? It means that I can now, instead of extracting data and spending time on extracting data, I now can spend time with the patient just talking to them and ask them about a completely different set of things and focus on their diagnosis and treatment plan. But so all that data is now all set for me. And it really is kind of a crazy thing to do. Like, we essentially coded like the physician mind. Like, it's wild, right? It's a wild
Oh, wow.
case, right?
Wait, back up 1 second. So it's basically coded the physician's mind. Elaborate on that a little.
So it's whenever I tell people this, they're like, "What do you mean?" I say, "Well, imagine coding a person that has all this experience, coding it in those questions, and then asking those questions before I actually ask them." And so our system acts like me, or acts like physicians, and so it does what I would do, and it.
Wow.
And I just finish a little bit. I might get 85% of it, and then I'll do the rest, the last 15%. But it really does that, and it does it now. We're coding lots of specialties. We're up to 25 now, but we do everything. We do primary care, pediatrics, orthopedic surgery, cardiology, respirology, gastroenterology, ophthalmology. We do all of it, and we curate these histories by bringing in my colleagues who are smart and understand medicine and have tons and tons of experience, and they validate the data, the histories. So the histories that it's taking is true data, true histories, because the ophthalmology group says it's correct, or the cardiology group says it's correct, or the respirology group. So all of these people, we have networks of physicians that create these medical histories for us and validate them, and we can locally customize. So if you're a patient, we're now in 3 markets, right? So we're now in Canada, in the US, and the Middle East. And so patients in the Middle East are different than patients in Northern Canada. And so how is it our system can take a history specific to a patient in Northern Canada versus Dubai? Because we can actually locally customize and curate those histories for different experiences of different physicians in different parts of the world. And so that's what makes our system so powerful, crazy. Right? Yeah, it's pretty wild, because it's essentially
it really is.
Yeah, It's like computational algorithmic, meaning we code knowledge and then we use AI to efficiently determine what to ask and when and how. So we create a very seamless, very, very simple interaction that anyone can answer. You can have a 98-year-old grandparent and a 15-year-old be able to do it because it's so intuitive with how the system takes a medical history, and that's what we do. That's the coding of the clinician mind, but it's really hard to do, and it takes a long time. As you can see, when the story started, it takes a long time, but you have to do it this way because it's the right way to get the information. You got it. It's a knowledge problem, not a tech problem. The knowledge lives in our minds, and if I don't practice, or if I pass away or whatever, the knowledge dies with me. But now it lives on in my system, in our system. It can ask like I ask. So I can go on forever about this.
I'm curious to go a little bit further. So I come to the hospital and I'm at triage, and the next step is at triage. First HX takes over where?
So right at triage, first things first is you got to determine if you're safe, right? Like if you're not right,
That
like you got to make sure you're okay and make sure your vitals are good and so forth. But even if they're not, someone has to give them a medical history, and it would be whoever you're with, a friend, a family, it doesn't matter who. Someone would need to fill out the history somehow. But what would happen is, let's say you're sitting in the waiting room, and let's talk about an emergency department, and you're sitting in a waiting room or an urgent care center. Then what would happen is a link, a text link, would send a link to your phone. And what I know is every single person has a smartphone now because COVID made everyone get a smartphone. so
right.
it works, right? Like
Yes.
it does work, and so that link, it says the doctor so and so, emergency department, or whatever that is, will be sent to your phone. You click on that link, and it takes you through a history about why you're there. So that's the emergency department, but it could be a cardiology clinic. Or a nephrology clinic. For my clinic, it can be you're there and you're having follow-up for your chronic kidney disease or your high blood pressure or diabetes. And so we can do all of it. We curate these histories, and we create value in that way for the patient, for the doctors, for the health system, because it's a very reproducible and standard process, but it shifts a lot of the time costs off of the physician in terms of acquiring that medical history. And we save about 3 to 5 minutes per patient encounter. And we've got validated data to show it. And the patients love it. They're like 97% patient satisfaction rating, over 90% physician satisfaction ratings.
Wow.
Yeah, and physicians, I can tell you, for me as a doc, I dislike most things that are technology related. I do.
Wait,
it's weird, right?
Dislike most things.
most things. But what's interesting is, here I am. I'm a tech guy and a doctor, and I kind of know how the two mesh. But I haven't liked most things because they end up making more work for me. Now, some of them are necessary. Like I need it. Like I need an electronic medical record. I need that data. I need all those things. But it doesn't change the fact that I still have to put data into it. So I need it, but how do I make that process better? So we work with electronic medical records. And honestly, I like electronic medical records. I'm an advocate for it. I need them. But where we come in is we make electronic medical records, that experience for the physician and the patient, we make it better because we now offload the time cost for the doc. And now the health system wins because you can either see more people, and get through your wait list, but you also make for very happy patients, right? And happy patients usually follow your direction. They usually listen to you, and they feel like they're being listened to, and then they're more likely to listen to your therapeutic regimens. They're more likely to follow through with your treatments, and it really makes for a great experience overall. But again, I don't like most things for that one reason where it creates more work, but we don't want to create more work. And so we don't, not a lot of the work is done by the doctor. It's actually done by the patient. The patient is sitting there wanting to help
Mm.
us, and we never enlist their help. They're the ones who have all the answers, not us. We just gather the
Mm.
data.
I
They're
don't
the
think
ones
I've
that
heard
tell
it that
us.
way before.
Yeah, if if you think about it, like they're they're the ones that have all of our information. We just happen to have the experience with how to extract that information, and we know what to do with it. But they have all of it. So there's like it's odd. It's an odd mismatch of the relationship. It's like it doesn't make sense. But that's really the reality. Anyone that has experience, um, and who has to extract that information and use their experience to come out with an output, they they need to figure out an issue, like a really efficient way to get that data. And that's the problem with medicine now is we have too few patients. Sorry, I apologize. I'm wrong. We have many patients, very little time, right? We have many patients, very little time, and so we have too many people to go through. And now we have a lot of administrative tasks that we have to try to automate, and that's what we do. We automate we are a pre-engagement platform. Now, there's a lot of engagement platforms and post-engagement platforms, and the engagement platforms are the time when I am face to face with the patient. But there are very few pre-engagement platforms that do what we do in our efficient way. So, yeah.
Now, you mentioned AI, and it's somewhat of its role in interacting here. Can you explain a little more how AI plays a role in the initial interaction? Is it the patient interacts with AI, or explain that process a little?
Absolutely. So this is one of the best questions because we often use the
Oh
word
yeah.
AI. Yeah, there you go. We often use the word AI, and the question is, what really does that mean? Is it like machine learning? Is it a some sort of offshoot of machine learning, or is it like knowledge based AI? Is it algorithms? Like, what does it mean, right? Um,
I'm
you
so
know, so
glad you're putting this in there. I'm
yeah,
so glad you're explaining this because
so
I think our audience needs to hear this, and I
yeah,
think it gives people a little more comfort to hear the explanation.
right.
So thank you. Forgive me for interrupting.
No, absolutely. This is a great conversation. And so the traditional way we think is we talk about how do you train a computer to use contextual data that it needs to learn on to come out with an output that is that it can validate. And so a good example is diagnosis, right? And so how does a machine take information in from all these other sources and all these sources? How does it sort the data, determine what is correct and what isn't correct? And then how does it say this person might have a specific diagnosis or not, right? And so that would require an immense amount of information that is validated and difficult to acquire to get an output of diagnosis in a very and to learn and to strengthen those outputs, and that's that machine learning component. But like and and to be very confident that that output is in fact correct, right? So that's this idea of that AI. But the way we use it is slightly different. We actually use a hybrid. And so we start at our core. We start out as our core as a knowledge based system. So we essentially code the heuristics and that probabilistic reasoning, that Bayesian logic in the questions that we ask. And those are based, and what I mean by that is a lot of the questions and the answers or the questions that physicians ask and the next question that people ask are based on the answers that patients give. The question that we often get asked is, how do you determine what the next question is? So if someone comes to you and says, I have
Mm.
X, Y, and Z, how do you know to ask the subsequent question? Which one do you ask? And so that is based on our experience and our knowledge and our textbook knowledge, but also all those patients we've seen, for all those tens and tens of thousands of patients we've seen with the same set of symptoms. We know what to ask because in general, the output we can kind of derive in our brains. And so what we do is we try to code exactly that. And earlier in the podcast, I tried to kind of explain part of it, but we code it in our questions, and implicitly in our questions, we code that. And so the next set of questions are based on previous answers. But then in order to sort those questions and decide what to ask next, that's where we layer on our AI. And so our machine learning AI based system will determine which set of questions we should ask next based on some learning algorithms that we have put in there. And so we use both systems. We don't just use AI and ML or machine learning. We use a system of knowledge and a computational algorithmic knowledge that is extremely hard to get. And so once that output is created, that data set is very powerful because now it's essentially the outputs of physician reasoning. Now you can use that data to advise other systems during the actual engagement of the patient-doctor relationship, that engagement process when you are taking that history. And it makes it very powerful. Hopefully that made sense in terms of the
It does.
descriptions.
I got to tell you, this is probably one of the best breakdowns I've heard of AI's engagement and the relationship it has in in particular with medical records. It's absolutely fascinating. I'm really fascinated about so cloning the physician's mind, inputting the data for it to computate and go to the next reasoning level on the question to ask next. I'm
Yeah.
fascinated by that whole process. I find that completely fascinating. So do you, as the founder, or is it you collect a team as a founder of doctors? How do you? I guess I'm asking, how do you get that information from the doctors? Is it just from is it from a group of doctors and they say, here's the questions you should ask next? Or is it you've gathered 1,000 medical professionals and here's our experience with patients? Do they input information to help you put this information in there? Pardon me, to ask the next questions? How is it that you gather that information to create first HX? How do you collect that information? I
Yeah.
guess that's a good way. I'm just fascinated how that.
Awesome. Awesome question. And this is our, and we always talk about competitive moat, right? Um, the best competitive moat a, a startup or a company can have is one that is based on relationships. It's very hard to break a relationship with someone, right? Once you have a very strong bond, you stick with them. And so we have a company.
Except if it's your ex-wife. Except if it's your ex-wife.
I love it. Yeah, that would be that would be okay. Yeah. Still married, 22 years, so still on the first one.
Yes.
Still on the first
I'm
one,
going to
right?
get there.
Yeah, there you go. So very great question. And so the idea here is we're a clinician-led company. So we've got physicians, nurses, and so forth. So we are for clinicians by clinicians. So we know in our company, we know what's wrong, where we need to fix things. We see patients all the time. We see patients every day. I still practice, right? Not fully, but I still practice. And I know where there are problems. And so during my practice, I meet people. I meet other physicians, nurses, physios, occupational therapists, all the team. Uh, we're now, I believe we now have 35 people in our company. And nearly every single person is, except for the tech team, is clinically based. Okay. Physicians, nurses, like we just have a ton of clinical experience on the team. And if you imagine each of those people know lots of people. I have a very large network of physicians and nurses that I know. Our CEO, who we brought on about 3 years ago, he also lots of people. He knows a lot of people. Our chief product officer, my co-founder, all of these, and our co-founder, like all these people know a lot of people. And so, how do we get these doctors to lend us their brain?
Exactly.
We're very nice to them is the answer. And like it really is, like I kid you not. I bootstrapped this through the years to bring this to a point where we actually are selling and have revenue. To do it, you just have to call in favors. And I said, hey, can you do this? This cardiology history. Can you look at congestive heart failure for me? Can you review the guidelines and review patient populations? Can you do this for me? And can you iterate for me? And I would just do this over and over and over a long period of time. And these just networks of doctors, we just know them. It's wild. And so we have these really cool competitive network effects now, where I just call on our ENT people, and there's this ENT group from all over the place, just able to curate these histories. And most recently was ophthalmology. It's really cool. We have a guy in the States doing our ophthalmology and sending it out to his crew. It's just wild how it organically grows. And it works because you just can't do it overnight. It takes years. So the third time's a charm, right? So this was the third company. First HX was 2017, and here we are 7 years later. And it took 6 to 7 years to get to a point where we had enough information, data, and a product where we can actually sell it, right? So just to show you how long this takes, the experts are the ones that create the validated histories. I don't say it's correct. They say it's correct. We're going to we partner with specialty societies. So you imagine it's the expert societies and your peers tell you that this is correct, not the internet. The internet doesn't tell you that a medical history is right or that this is the correct way to treat congestive heart failure. What tells you that it's right is your system of peers and your associations. The American Heart Association tells you that this is the correct way to do things, right? And so when you get physicians and guidelines and all these things together saying you are creating a valid history, it's correct because they say it's correct, not me. It's your peers. But you're right. It is hard to do. You have to ask nicely, and you have to pay them in shares as well sometimes. Yeah.
You have to pay them in shares. I also kind of had this vision that you take an x-ray of your colleague physician's brains, and through AI, they examine all the questions. And that's what was going in my head. Yeah. And that's how the collection of data is gathered.
Yep. That's
so you mentioned your team and about 35 people, I believe. How do you breed a culture of teamwork? What's your leadership style where you breed, let's get together, we're on this project? How do you breed that? What is your unique method on keeping, I forget the old expression, there's no I in team, but looking toward professionals like yourselves and founders of this, how do you create a harmonious team?
Oh, well, you've done this before. You've got a lot of great questions.
Thank you.
This is, if you look at other traditional companies, you look at products that are not specifically healthcare oriented, right? But ones that are directly affecting patients at the fundamental level. You have to have a structure that isn't a hierarchy, right? It can't be, I'm the founder, so I'm this. And I'm a doctor, so I'm that, right? People call me by my first name. My patients actually call me by my first name. So that might be just my personality. But, there can't be a hierarchy. We do have business units. They can be traditional. You have a tech team, a client success team, an integration portion, a sales team, but it's all sort of, it is functional in terms of structure, but we we cross domains and cross paths so often because this is a truly matrix-like system. You cannot have, you can't have a hierarchy when you have such an intricate matrix of data collection. You can't. It has to be when problems are created at the level of tech, everyone needs to know all the time, everywhere, not just your superior or otherwise. We breed a culture of don't be afraid. We're inclusive. Talk to everyone. Everyone's on a first name basis. If there's an issue, tell everyone. We have a Slack channel, and we have emergency 24/7 support. Tell everyone. And if you need to call me, call me. I don't care if it's 2 a.m. Call the CEO, call the founder board chair guy. I don't care if I'm traveling. Doesn't matter. I don't care if I'm on a boat, doing whatever. It really doesn't matter. And so no one's afraid to call us and to ping us at any time. There is no fear of reprimand because it's like we're like a living organism. One thing can bring the entire thing down. And because it is a highly integrated data collection tool, everyone needs to work perfectly well together. And so we really do work well together. We have we have get-togethers. Like it's a pretty cool family-like picture. So it's just not the same as other traditional hierarchical type structures. So yeah, we're just
So it's
open.
so you feel like the culture of your staff and colleagues is more a familiar environment. You keep a teamwork. We're all on the same level. We all make this successful together. That's the style of your leadership.
Yeah, and if
And
we all win, when this wins, everyone wins. Everyone shares in the company, right?
and so some of the values I'm hearing you say that represents first HX is a patience first, team effort first. We're about the love of making not only good products, but continuing to build patient confidence. That seems to be some of the value system that first HX represents. Am I correct?
Correct. So the core of it is the patient is the center of this journey, right? And we have to remember that we're dealing with human lives and medical care. And we're all patients. No matter how rich we are, how poor we are, what our status is, it does not matter because it's the exact same presentation. You're still sick, right? And the one thing that brings all of us together on earth, there's only one thing, believe it or not, is that sure, there's other stuff, but I'm saying the one very significant commonality is we all get sick sometime. We all need someone to help us, right? And at that time, we want to make sure that we're listened to and that we are treated well with respect and dignity and that we are valued, right? And so the beginning of that journey, that patient centeredness, that it's patient satisfaction, patient centered care. That's what we're all about. And the nice thing about it is our core of it is we succeed because the patient's happy, right? Because the end user of this, although it might be the physician or the healthcare system, but everyone wins. Patient's healthier, patient gets care fast. They come back to see you because they're happy because you did a good job. The system saves money. We reduce our wait times. Like there are wins everywhere, right? With a system that is based on patient centered care. So that's sort of how we structure it, and everyone wins.
And so that's how you define success, it seems like. That
Right.
would be what you would consider. Absolutely. So now, within those realms, what are some adversity you've had to face in getting first HX to be as efficient as it is, or to get it into the hospitals? What are some of the challenges you've had to face?
Yeah, it's interesting. Another interesting one is you can have the best product, the best team, best product, greatest return on investment, both from financially and from a patient scorecard, patient satisfaction perspective. But there is sometimes that inertia in healthcare that is difficult to overcome. It's almost like an activation energy when you're in chemistry, right? To get that reaction to go, you need a certain amount of activation energy to get the reaction to go. But like in healthcare, because in implicit in the system is a lot of older way of thinking, right? I'm not saying older people, but an older mindset of what defines healthcare and how an interaction should be. Um, it's hard to sometimes do change management. It's hard to actually change your process. And so the difficult thing that we encounter is changing an existing process that seems to be working okay, but actually isn't. It's just that there's that inertia problem. But once people start using it, we become very sticky. And we know because we're now what about
Sticky? Did you say
sticky,
sicky?
sticky.
Sticky. Oh,
Yeah, it's
sticky.
sticky because
Okay.
once people see the benefit, it's hard to live without it. It's kind of like the ATM, right? Like, can you imagine someone takes away our ATM? Like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I have no idea. Or like online banking. I have no idea what I would do or how to do anything. But so once people use it and they see the value, it becomes part of their workflow and their process. And you can't take it away. We know that because we've gone through ups and downs, and there was one time when we were updating some of our software and so forth, and we had a very short time where the software we had to upgrade it, and people are like, "Where is this? I need this!" Like our clients, so we're like, "We need this right now." I said, "We told you we needed to upgrade the software. This is what's happening, right?" So it's the dependency. We've created that dependency. So how do you overcome it? You have to get people who are change agents in big institutions to say, maybe we're going to we're going to give this a chance. Let's give it a trial, a chance. Let's try to change the process. Get someone who's a real champion, right? And that's how you do it. That's how you overcome that inertia problem and that activation energy. You get someone who wants it, who needs it, and then it builds organically. We know it's working because we're now talking to some of the biggest institutions in the States and Canada and the Middle East, and our momentum is growing. And in just 9 months, like we've got huge momentum. Our Generation 2 product came out around 9 months ago. We have like 800,000 patients who've gone through the system already. Like it's growing like crazy. So we're growing very fast. Yeah.
You bring that up, the growing. I'm very curious. So, how is First HX distributed? So, you have a sales team, I'd imagine, and they go into the hospitals and or medical facilities. How is First HX? I understood you said earlier word of mouth is a big portion of that. Happy patients being a part of word of mouth. What are some of the other ways First HX is getting out there?
So great question again. We are, as I mentioned before, we're in 3 markets: the Canada, US, and the Middle East. We do have sales resources on the ground in parts of the States. We did hire a director of the American market as well, so he's leading that. And we have sales resources in New York, Texas, and Chicago. And so part of that is these people have very large networks, have experience in sales, and our go-to-market strategy is to leverage those sales resources and their networks and get into institutions that way. Similarly, we have the same kind of structure in Canada and in the Middle East. It's an interesting. It will start to grow in a more organic way once we get larger and once we hire more salespeople. But it does work. We're always busy, and we have a lot in our pipeline and a lot more sales in our pipeline. So we know it's working right now, but we can always use more people to help sales, right, and leverage that. But yeah.
Hey, I'm a recruiter. Maybe I'm also a
There it
recruiter.
is.
Maybe I should start recruiting some
There you
salespersons.
go. We do have marketing. So we do have in-house marketing. So we do have in-house marketing. We're on. We do LinkedIn campaigns and Twitter and Facebook, but mostly it's LinkedIn tends to be a larger one. But we do also
Absolutely.
do yeah, and we have other press releases. A recent one was a cancer navigation tool, for example, that we're partnered with in the American market to improve cancer patient experiences with medical history taking and so forth. And so that is so we do have different avenues, yeah, and including these podcasts.
For sure, for
There you
sure.
go.
And so 5 years from now, where do you see first HX?
Oh boy. Whoa, that is a tough one. Ah, I
And it's
rarely,
okay if you.
yeah, I rarely think about things, but I'm going to take 3 seconds, and I think I know. Okay. Um, so yeah, it's interesting. So what, if you kind of look at, you zoom out, right, and you say, what should this look like? What should this look like if you can imagine a process of care, medical history taking, where would this be? Well, technically, it should be everywhere, right? Like in 5 years, can we be everywhere? Probably not. But everywhere, we have data requirements everywhere, and we have patients everywhere. We can take multiple languages, and we can transcend borders, right? So technically, we should be in every hospital, every waiting room, every virtual care platform. It just should be everywhere. And when I mean by first HX, I mean structured data capturing of great quality that isn't static, meaning it needs to change with time because data change with time, because patients change with time, and so does science, and so do physicians and physician experience. So that means you need to get a system to update and change in real time forever and be everywhere. Like, holy moly, that is crazy. I don't think we'll do it in 5 years, but technically we should be anywhere where there's a requirement for pre-engagement or where there should be a medical history, right? So that's what I see.
Real quick, Mark, can I travel in the back of that for a quick second? Is that where some of the AI comes in? Because AI ever evolving? Is that some of the
Yes.
progressive change that would happen within 5 years? So constant real time data, AI
Yes.
is involved in that process, and so that's what helps in the 5 year vision. Is what I imagine as AI is growing and learning, and physicians' knowledge is growing and learning. So that would be a part of that growth track, if I'm understanding correctly.
100%. Yep, that is exactly it. Because now we're going to have a very significant. We're gathering significant data sets, and these are all anonymized. There's no patient. You can't. There's no patient information. Like, you can't find these people. But what is important is you can analyze information now, contextual information, and now you can make decisions with them. Like imagine having all this data, and you can say, I wonder why there is a pattern of this fever and this cough in this part of the US.
Oh
Like,
yes, okay, good. I'm glad you
imagine
went
that.
into this. Go right
Could
ahead.
you imagine that? Imagine, or say, I wonder why in this postal code of, I don't know, of Nova Scotia, is there this pattern of shortness of breath with this type of rash? Like, like imagine being able to find patterns because you've got all this smart data that's codified properly. Like that can help with governments and pandemics and so many things. There's so many applications. And so in 5 years, who knows? Boy, like I love the idea of the advanced AI and data gathering capabilities. But now you can like have all this contextual data that you can actually make real decisions with, So that's yeah, that's what I would think.
AI, it seems so. I know a number of people I'm hearing. There's growing concerns with personal interaction with AI, and sometimes well, I think because we're at the beginning stages, somewhat, there's the concerns or fear that AI will replace job positions or will become so dependent on AI. But it seems the way you described it, AI will always be a partner in the medical field.
Right.
That's what it seems like I'm understanding through first HX. So AI, some of those concerns with AI, AI is not a substitute in the medical field. It will always be hand in hand. Am I interpreting that correctly?
You got it. That is exactly That is exactly it. There, there's there are too many unknown pieces of information that right now physicians do, and even nurse practitioners, OTs, PTs, everyone with skills. Um, there are too many unknowns, and the data doesn't exist to train the the AI. Like you just it just doesn't exist yet. So you're the purpose of AI is to help the people that have skilled knowledge do their job easier, faster, better. And that is the way we use it. We use it as an assistant to improve the process of care, so that the person is still at the center. So the patient's at the center, speaking to the care provider, and there's still that personal interaction, right? There has to always be a human there, and that keeps the human, that keeps it human, that keeps it personal. We can't have computers running around, thinking that they can feel and have emotion, right, the same way we do, right?
Will Smith movie.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it just doesn't. It doesn't replace us, and that's part of why doctors like using our system. Is we do not give them a diagnosis. We let them do it. We just give them
Mm.
the information so that they can make an effective diagnosis. Let them, with all their knowledge and experience, let them make the decision. And so that's why people like to use our system, because it does not produce an output that is erroneous and bizarre, or replacing them, right? So
And so I get that. If I, as a layman or a layperson, and in hearing some of this, it seems to me that it reduces the amount of apprehension I would have with understanding that it goes hand in hand and it's used as an assistant in medical treatment and so forth. And it seems not only streamlines the process, but to me, it also feels like it gives a more personal interaction for doctor and patient because that's out of the way. So now the physician has the information, they spend time with patient, and now there's a personal connection that time has been reduced where the medical information is gathered, the data is gathered, and doctor can do more one-on-one and patient and doctor connect more. That's first HX. Is that what I'm understanding and
that
its
is it.
product?
You've just distilled it down perfectly. You should come and work for us. That is the,
Hey, things that work out here, I'm
yeah,
there.
there it is. That is exactly it. You absolutely summarized it perfectly. It is exactly that.
So here's to some of the other questions. First, these are the speed round questions.
Okay.
Mark does what for fun?
Okay. You see behind me, I've got my guitar. So I love music. Play guitar. I play heavy metal guitar. I don't know if I
Oh
look
yeah.
like one. Imagine like a physician playing heavy metal, but love music. I love everything from classical music to hard rock and heavy metal. And so, what do I do for fun? Music is number one.
Oh yeah. Oh
For
yeah.
personal fun, what do I do? What's my family fun? Obviously, family. Like to me, spending time with my two boys. I have a 17-year-old and a 15-year-old. They also play music, so we play music together, and spend
Oh
time,
yeah.
of course, with my wife. We ski. We ski every weekend and have a lot of family time doing so. So fun is a mixture of both personal and family time fun, but those are the two big things for me. I love the idea of hanging out with friends and family, but you gotta do something for fun, right? You've got to take your mind off. You've got to do something else other than work, and it helps you think. And I think we've talked about this at some point before, offline, but art and music helps you become creative,
Yes.
right? And,
Yes.
and
I'm
again,
glad you.
in order to create a new process, a new product, a new solution to a problem, um, you've got to the creative mind, meaning the musical mind, the creative mind, the painters, the artists, they help create new things because of seeing things that that other people can't see, solutions to problems. And that's really what music does. So that's kind of what I do for fun. Yeah.
Now, if you had to give advice to an entrepreneur, what are the most critical thinking skills or set of skills you would think that an entrepreneur would need to succeed? If you had to say,
Oh boy. Yes. This is probably the best and most important question. um, the 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 one thing you need to have is you've got to, once you identify a problem, or that you have the capacity to identify a problem and you want to deal with that problem, you've got to follow through with it if you believe that needs to be there. Meaning you need to have it in your brain that you will not stop until
mm,
this
there you go.
until this is there. And so I give this as an example. It's one of you read this in a lot of books, right? Like grit, that that drive, that grinding through all the negatives, the no, no,
Yes.
no. You're going to hear the word no so often. It's part of your lexicon. It's now just is part of your brain. Um, so as a founder, you need to accept that you're going to be told no way more times than you are yes. Accept that you're going to have many failures and that you actually need the failures. You can't stop. You shouldn't stop. If you're going to truly want to do this and be an entrepreneur and be a founder to do this kind of work, you have to keep going. And so think about how long
Mm,
I've been doing this. Vision started in the late 90s, and I failed many times, but maybe it's my brain just can't give up with this stuff. But when you start something, you have to finish it. If you're going to say you're going to do something, you got to do it. And so the qualities are: you have to have grit, you have to accept the word no, you need to follow through with what you say, you need to be honest, you need to you need to be kind to everyone you meet. It doesn't matter who. It doesn't matter what degree they have, what social class they are. It does not matter. You can learn from every single person, and you have to treat everyone with respect. And so you kind of have to be humble in that way. Accept that you might be poor for a while financially, but who cares? You can be rich in other areas. You don't have to be rich financially. You can be you can you need a basic amount of money, but it's better to have a rich friendships, right? And be kind than and to have a bundle of money and 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 not be able to look people in the face, right? So you have to have those qualities. Like it's a really tough question to answer, but boy, if you don't want to start something, and if you can't see it through, and you're going to quit many times because people are going to say no, you shouldn't even start it.
mm.
And
Well,
and
that's
every
wonderful.
failure, actually, yeah. The other thing is every failure was actually a huge opportunity. That's the other thing. A failure is not really a failure. It's actually a massive opportunity. You just have to see it that way, right? It's you got to see that to see it through. Otherwise, you'll never do it. You'll never succeed.
I really like that. Failure is a massive opportunity. I really can follow through with that. I like that. And so, if spirituality plays a role in your life, what role does it play?
Yeah, it's great. Another great one. You've got to be, whether you're religious or not, whatever you believe, uh, you've got to believe in something, whether it be your family, your parents, religion, your friends. You need to ensure that you're well connected with who you are, and part of that can be through spiritualism. Part of that can be through your friendships or religion or otherwise or whatever you are. If you're agnostic, it doesn't matter, or atheist. Um, it who you are and who you believe you are is the core, is your make
Mm,
is what your
there you go.
makeup. It's your core, right? And so that transcends everything you say and do. And so if you don't know who you are, or if you're not comfortable with who you are, and you don't have a good value framework, you're not going to go very far, right? You've got to really believe in yourself and believe in in what makes you you, right? And be connected spiritually and through family and otherwise to make things, yeah, make things move forward.
So would it be fair to say spirituality is knowing who you are, and the role that it plays is really having a strong sense of self, not giving into the failure, seeing the failure as a massive opportunity for further success. So spirituality can play the role in knowing oneself, knowing your passion and desires, and going through seeing them through. I heard this great expression that I think really kind of sums it up. He split the water so I can walk through. And it was saying, the waters were split in half for you. You just have to walk through. So it might be tumultuous on both sides, but you have a clear path. You see these dangers happening on both sides, but you stay clear of your vision and you keep on moving it forward.
It sounds like Moses parting the Red Sea.
I'm sure it has some relationship to that, for sure, for sure, for sure. And I lost my train. Oh, so if people want to reach out to you, oh no, I know what I was just. So for fun, music is a big part of that. But as a doctor, and one of the things we were talking about that I found fascinating, you've done some traveling to some adventurous type of places. Can you can you share with us any of those dangerous, or I
Yeah.
guess we might want to say adventurous situations that you've been in the line of fire for?
I'll share the one that I didn't share before offline to you. I'll share this one actually.
Okay, go ahead.
Really cool training. So part of my training, we were able to do locums. We were able to go to different parts of the world to be a doctor in different parts of the world while you're actually still training. So you are a doctor, but you haven't finished your advanced medical training. But anyway, so I ended up going to Belize. I went to Belize in my internal medicine residency. Excuse me. And the was it? Yeah, it was internal. Yeah, it was internal medicine. And the wild part was seeing how other people live who have very little money, very little control over their health and their environment. I went there with my wife, and she was a physiotherapist. Volunteered at the medical center there. I volunteered there while training as part of my training, and we managed this hospital ward, and it was eye opening, like super dangerous, ridiculously dangerous, eye opening. Um, how people were so thankful to have care. These people come from another country to just stay with them for a month and like care for them for free. Like it was a mind boggling to them, right? And so I met a bunch of Cuban doctors who were helping out there, and it was just wild to see that. But what was so strange was we lived in Belize City, which is, if you know anything about Belize City, it was so dangerous. Like we're talking, you think parts of the American like we're like this is like significant danger risk. But everyone knew us, and we were walking there. We went to local shops. We had incredible meals in like people's homes, like just amongst the people. Right? I had some of the best meat pies and fried chicken I've ever had in my life. You know, and, and here we are, a bunch of people from Canada in the most dangerous part of the world, unreal, totally unharmed, and everyone protected us. They're like, those, don't touch them. They're here to help us. It was the kind of, and we lived in a shack. It was wild. That was one of the best experiences of my life, and this was before we had kids. But it was, so we didn't bring them, but it was one of the best experiences to see. Wow, can you imagine like bringing our system, like technology, to them? You know, it'd be wild. Like I can treat people from here or there. It was an amazing, eye-opening experience. But yeah, that was my travel experience to the danger part of of the world. Yeah.
So if you were going to tell someone, you know, I didn't see myself at this road and where I'm at now, but now that I'm here, here's the most important thing I've learned. What would that be?
Oh, Boy, the most important thing I've learned um, is probably not to follow, just create your own path. Um,
There we go.
create your own path. Don't follow what is expected. Um, break out of the social norms, right? Try to be uncomfortable a bit, even though it might be difficult to achieve that endpoint. But just break out of that normal path that everyone takes and just take a different path. That if you want to create something, take a different path. So the most important thing was just take risks. If you know it's right and it's part of who you are, and you want to create something, take that risk. Take the other path. Don't take the straight path if you don't need to, right? So it's just never give up and just do what you think is right, what your parents have taught you as the right thing. Do the right thing, right? Be nice and do the right thing. Take your own path. Create your own adventure. Create your own endpoint, right? Because it's really about the journey, right? They always say the journey, not the destination. It really is about the
That's
journey,
right.
you know. And so create that path. Yeah, I think that would be it. Yeah.
I really love that. And as creators, and both of us being like minded, because I said we are such a kindred spirit, creating your own path is one of the best. And I think it was one of the most instrumental and influential words that were given to me: create your own path. And I even used it when working with young people. I said, don't follow the path that's been walked before, create your own path. And I think that's how we get incredible persons like yourself creating products like First HX, and where we get people like yourself giving us this type of information and innovation, which is what continues to have our world to grow. Mark, I can't thank you enough in First HX. I can't begin to tell you how enjoyable and our conversation prior to the interview and the conversation here has been enlightening and fun and humorous. We have much more to share in the coming future that I'm looking forward to. So please, thank you so much for taking out the time with us today. Are there any other things you'd like to say, not only how they can reach you and First HX, your company, but any other things you want to leave us with today?
I think the one thing is that look us up. We are at www.firsthx.com, and you can reach me at my name, like Mark, MARK Benaroia, BENAROIA at firsthx.com. But like, look us up on our website, see what we do, see who we are, see what values we bring. And if you truly want to see, if you know someone, and this is not a plug for selling, but if you do know someone, or you have physicians that might want to try it or use it, and just reach out, and we'll be happy to show you. It's just, this only works if everyone works together. So,
Dr. Mark Benaroia, it has been a pleasure, my friend. Mark, as I'm going to call you, and I can't wait until we can jam together at some point.
I can't wait.
I'm just so looking forward to it. Thank you so much, my good friend. I'm looking forward to the inspiration that you'll be creating from here and the people that will reach out to you. And I can't wait until we have further conversations. This is your boy, Seth Guru, thanking Dr. Mark Benaroia, First X. Please check him out. Check us on our Makers Bar. Give us a like and a subscribe. Remember these last words for today. Come in, be present, and exist. Let the world know you exist. Walking down your path is not as difficult as it might seem. You are the creator of that destination for yourself. One love, good family. We are Makers Bar. Thank you. We are creating 1 million leaders today for tomorrow. Here's one of those leaders and innovators, Dr. Mark. Again, thank you, my friend. I love you so much. Really appreciate it. I'm looking forward to our continued conversations and progression.
Thank you, Seth. That's great.
My pleasure. Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, we are signing off. We look forward to seeing you the next time. Seth Guru Baxter, your People Whisperer. Peace.